Hello everyone. We are group 4. In our group we have Tanuj Kumar, Yashraj Singh Gohil and myself Rishi Kumar. We are going to discuss about the scientific paper combating global disruption through tertius iungens orientation of CEOs or moderated mediated mechanism. This has been written by Arpita Agnihotri, Saurabh Bhattacharya and Wahid Zafari Sadeghi. Through the presentation, we are going to discuss about the abstract and introduction of the theoretical paper or the scientific paper that we got, and then we will discuss about the objectives of the this presentation and the scientific paper. Then we will follow through with the theoretical background and hypothesis and its findings. We will talk about tertius iungens orientation and role of COVID-19 pandemic with the CEOs. We will also talk about data and methodology used. We will discuss about the results of this scientific paper and on the conclusion part of it. Then we will be discussing about how these findings of this scientific paper could be incorporated in the Canadian multinational. In our case, we have chosen Magna International, which is an automotive parts firm. Then we will also assess the Canadian firm chosen and its organizational health and how tertius iungens orientation can be used in the Canadian firm that we have chosen so far. Let us talk about the abstract and introduction part of this scientific paper. This scientific paper primarily discusses about CEOs tertius iungens orientation and how they use this skill to increase their organizational performance. Second is about mediating the effect of organizational resiliency in the CEO tertius iungens orientation and how micro multinational enterprises uh, increase their relationship financially and also globally in the value chain. Thirdly, it talks about how these CEOs use their skill set to tackle the global forces such as COVID-19. As the study shows that 43% of small firms likely to be extinct by 2020 in the United States, and there is a 20% decrease in sales in the year 2020 in the small medium enterprises. The micro multinational enterprises performance during these macro environmental crisis is also a matter of concern, and how high TIO CEOs address it is what has been discussed in this paper. The CEO's role in internationalization of these micro multinational enterprises has also been discussed during the COVID-19 time frame. The crisis stimuli response of these CEOs during the disruptive times and to manage the global value chain network has also been addressed through different hypothetical examples presented in the paper. Let us understand the objective of doing this scientific paper. The main objective is to find out how do these micro multinational enterprises sustain their financial performance despite facing the disruptive challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. Second is about what mediating and boundary conditions drive these MMNE's performance during disruption. Third is about how the findings of this paper can be used in a Canadian multinational, and Magna International is the Canadian firm that we have chosen for this. Now that we understood the objectives of this theoretical paper, let's understand the conceptual framework. As we can see from the image given below, there are two images. One is the model, which talks about mediation model and the moderated mediation model. Second is the how the CEOs of MMNEs have performed over the last 4 years. So we can see that the performance of CEOs towards safety and security have grown exponentially post the COVID-19 pandemic era. And so, as the digital transformation and managing its cost and enterprise agility and all those areas. But we see that post the pandemic, there are two significant factors, which is workforce safety and security and digital transformation that has been worked upon by these CEOs most prominently. In the mediation model, we see that the CEO TIO is directly related to the performance, and both these things are interconnected with the organizational resilience. However, if when we see talk about the moderated mediation model, it is very imperative to for these CEOs or high TIO CEOs to connect with their industry peers in the global mindset, so that they can still make their organizational performance better in the time of disruptive times. Let us understand the theoretical background of this paper, which talks about combating the global disruption through TIO. The first thing is how micro multinational enterprise internationalize through advanced entry mode, and how during these times organizational process rely more on the skills of the CEOs than formally planned policies. For instance, we see that high TIO oriented CEOs could either find a natural position in the international value chain to break the deal, or they can pose themselves as a broker in the network so that they have a service orientation as a network or orchestrator. Second is the networking ability of CEOs that can significantly influence a firm's internationalization abilities. Third, the MMNE's operations under the leadership of high TEOs during disruptive times that enhances the micro multinational performance in the international markets. Fourth is about international operations of MNEs through a more resource intensive entry mode. What it does is that it fosters uncertainty and financial performance concerns compared to export during disruptive times, because of the fact that the high TIO CEOs are very proactive during the times of disruption, and they look forward for opportunities to respond to disruption, due to which uh, at times there are uncertainty in their financial performances. However, with their connections, they are likely to establish a very great performance within their company through frequent communication that can help them in resulting in reciprocal relationships. The last is relational embeddedness, which means that they can create personal relationships and develop with their industry peers in order to increase the organizational performance in the international market. There are a lot of theories which discusses about the tertius iungens and international performance of MMNEs during the COVID-19 pandemic. Such as here you can see the triple helix approach, fluctuation theory. Now, in the triple helix approach, what we can do is that the companies they can internationalize by leveraging on the knowledge of universities, government, and industry. So, in this, we can see that academia is at the top, industry is on the one of the vertical, in government is one of the vertical, wherein if they all are intertwined and connected through different loops, and they grow simultaneously, industry grows simultaneously with the help of academia and government in all the spheres, like socially, environmentally, economically, and ethically. as well. And in the effectuation theory, it actually talks about how a company can make its global niche position strategy, and it can, internationalize through the same. So, uh, I mean, this high TIO CEOs, with one given mean, they can come out with multiple ends of the same mean. So that is what it talks about in effectuation theory. So here are some more theories to look at it. One is institutional theory. That means that through this, global scaling happens at three different levels. One is at initiative level, second is at organizational level, and third, it creates the ecosystem for the uh, industry and the firm itself. Second is we are looking at the MNE's FDI in Canada. If we see during the pandemic times, the FDI had reduced significantly. However, slowly and gradually, it has started to take pace. With the start of this quarter, we can see that there is an incremental addition in the FDI of the MMNEs in Canada. Third, we see is configurational approach for multinationalization. In this, what it does, the company does, that they check the timing of the governments across the globe, and they use this with the location of the top management team to determine the multinationalization strategy for their companies. And it is very much applicable for the larger organization and also for the small medium enterprises. Let us see how the data was collected and what methods have been used to write this scientific paper, because that is also primarily important. The focus was on UK based micro multinational enterprises, and the writers used British Exporters Database, and they focused on those small medium enterprises that were pursuing internationalization. Also, it was those companies which has less than 250 employees, and they had less than 50 million euro in their annual revenues. Also, in order to get the CEO's performance, they ensured that CEO was the main decision maker in these firms, and their email ID was available to them readily. During this process, they selected 1590 firms in the initial sample. They used multiple regression methods. They used Herman's single factor test, binomial distribution, and single survey to get the test results. There were independent variables as tertius iungens orientation, and the micro multinational enterprises performance was used as dependent variable. Here is the tabular presentation of hypothesis testing, to which my teammate Tanuj will elaborate further. However, I'm just giving the overview of this hypothesis testing. This testing was done on four different parameters to understand how the performance of MNEs are in the disruptive times, how CEO use their TIOs, how the organizational resilience were reciprocated during the COVID-19 pandemic era, and what was the impact of all this on the CEO global mindset. And we see that the single uh, Cornback's alpha is more than 0.90 in all the parameters except the organizational resilience. That means that if it is greater than 0.90, that means it was doing great. And even if it is in the range of 0.70 to 0.90, that means they were fairly doing better. However, if we see look at the uh, other validity like discriminant validity of uh, company's performance, CEO's orientation, that has also been doing great. Let us talk also about the findings of this hypothesis in the next page. So, as we saw the table, so M&E performance was used during a three item scale, and sample item was international profit over the past 3 years. As I discussed, that Cronbach's alpha here is 0.93. Second, if we see the CEO tertius iungens orientation was using Observille's 6-time item scale, and the sample item is that I will try to describe an issue in a way that will appeal to a diverse set of interests by the CEO, and we saw that the scale was internally consistent at 0.90. The organizational resilience was using a 9-item scale, which was adopted from Cantor and Say and Do It All. And the sample item is that company is agile in taking required action when needed. That means that company is taking a proactive approach during the disruptive times. And we saw that their consistency was at 0.82. Similarly, we see that CEO's global mindset is at 0.91. The we also controlled like several factors that may influence the performance of the MMNEs, and given the CEO's personal attributes that could influence the company's success, we controlled the demographic characteristics such as giving gender as men as 1 and women 0, and the education of the CEOs as business education as 1 and non-business as 0. How CEOs will respond to uncertainty during the disruptive times could also influence firm's performance. Thus, we controlled the tolerance for ambiguity using the Gupta's and Govindarajan's 4-item scale, and the Cronbach's alpha was at 0.78, which is fairly good for these firms.
All right, thank you, Rishi, for giving me the opportunity to present my part in this presentation. So, guys, here the slide which is in front of me is the result of mediation and moderated mediation regression model with a sample size of 192 companies. So, on the horizontal axis, we can see that there are a lot of parameters like organizational resilience, CEO's global mindset, CEO's business degree, or like CEO's age, CEO's gender, firm's age. And on the y-axis, here we can see like the top line, it is a mediation model and the moderated mediation model. Then we have subheadings as M&E performance and organizational resilience. So here the if you see the values, the bottommost value is adjusted R square value. So in both of them, the M&E performance value is same and it stays on 0.22. And but if we talk about organizational resilience values, here is a small difference of 0.02. That is like in mediation model it is 0.06, and in organizational resilience it is 0.18. So I'm going to go to the next slide and I'm going to tell you more about the outcomes of this test which you did right now. So these are some few findings from the data which was shown in the previous slide. And here we can observe this that the TIO, CEO and the M&E performance values are more precise. Here the first one is R square value is 0.24 with a confidence interval of 99%, and the organizational resilience and the M&E performance value is 0.28 with the same confidence interval, and there is a positive and significant relation in both of them. The second observation which is in front of us is between CEO, TIO and MMNE performance association, which is also positive and significant with a beta value of 0.14 and with a confidence interval of 99%. which supports our first hypothesis as well, which Rishi covered in a few of the presentations which he did. And the association with CEO tertius Eugene's orientation and organizational resilience is also positive, and it's really significant with a beta value of 0.22 and with the same confidence interval. So last but not the least, finding of this data is the data, and the relation between organizational resilience and M&E performance is also positive and significantly associated with a beta value of 0.18 and with the same confidence interval. Okay, so in the previous slide, I have shown the effect of direct parameters, and here in this one, you guys can see that we have shown the indirect effect of different levels of moderators with the same size, that is of 192 companies. So here it is shown for organizational resilience as mediator, and as a mediator with a global mindset. So if we talk about the outcomes of this table, so this table reveals that the CEO TIO has an indirect effect on M&E performance through organizational resilience, which is statistically significant with a theta value of 0.0396, and here the lowest confidence interval value is 0.0294, and it is with a upper confidence interval value is with 0.0503. And for hypothesis 4, the table in the previous slide explained that the CEO, TIO, and the global mindset interaction. Beta coefficient explains the interaction of organizational resilience is positive and significant, having beta value of 0.17 and confidence interval of 0.01. Secondly, the indirect effect of CEO tertius Eugene's orientation on M&E performance was more positive and statistically significant at a high level of global mindset, having theta value of 0.2368, and the lowest confidence interval was 0.2151, and the upper confidence interval was 0.2593. But if we talk about the average level of global mindset, not the high level, but the average level, the theta value is 0.1600, with the lowest confidence interval having 0.1440, and the upper one is 0.1755. And if we talk about the low level of global mindset, the theta value is 0.0832, and lowest confidence interval is 0.056576, and the upper confidence interval is 0.1089. So the beta coefficient of TIO for organizational resilience was significant only at 5% confidence level. And this implies that resilience is critical during disruptive force like a pandemic. Now I'm gonna uh, head towards the conclusion part of this presentation. All right, so in order to conclude the presentation, we have some key points here. So the first one is COVID-19 challenges for the firms. The pandemic posed strategic challenges to the international businesses, and especially if we talk about the international businesses, they had a risk of declining performances. The second one is MMNE and limited resources. So here, smaller international enterprise faced higher uncertainty due to disruptions caused by the pandemic. Their success is highly dependent on the skills and networking ability of their top executives, like the managers and CEOs. Uh, the next one is CEO traits for resilience. So here, CEO with a global mindset and a focus of building international networks were more effective in navigating the challenges for the pandemic. And the last conclusion for this one would be the role of CEO, where high tertius Eugenes oriented CEOs with global mindset acted as intermediators facilitating international trades and organizational resilience by leveraging their networks and sharing knowledge within them. Okay, so this slide is talking about the theoretical contribution uh, of the study which we did right now. So the first one is CEO traits and international businesses. The study contributes to the international business and globalization literature by explaining how CEOs' characteristics can aid firms in international markets and how they can perform better. So the second one is network sensitivity to disruptions. So here is like existing research indicates that even minor disruptions can alter, network dynamics, potentially harming firms' competitiveness. So the if we talk about the COVID-19 pandemic, being a global crisis could negatively affect the cross-border networks of multinational enterprises, that is MNEs. The next one is organizational resilience in international market. And this study highlights that the role of founders and CEOs becomes more critical in determining resilience and its effect on firm performance during the disruptions. The next one is CEO tertius iungens orientation. So the role of CEOs, TIO, is relatively less explored in the existing literature. During disruptive times such as global crisis, pandemic, leaders could leverage their global networks. They can use them for their own their good, for their good things. So last one would be global leadership and mindset. So this research demonstrates how a global mindset can influence the relationship between CEO, TIOs, and organizational resilience in a firm with global dispersed value chain activities. So the next one will be moving to the next slide now. Alright, so in this one we are talking about the managerial implications of the study. The first one is practical impact, where our findings offered a practical solution for board founders and CEOs dealing with disruptions in the international market. So, appointing CEOs with a strong tertius eugenes orientation and a global mindset can enhance organizational resilience and the performance of the company. The second one is resilience in global business. So, in response of global disruptions like those studied by organizations such as World Economic Forum, our research suggests that CEO with a high TIO and global mindset can lead to more resilient organization that outperforms competitors. And the last implication would be venture capital implications. Here, venture capitalists evaluating startup growths should consider CEO's network orientations, and a CEO with a robust TIO can make M&E more resilient and competitive during the disruptions. So in this slide, I'm going to talk about limitations and direction for future research. The first one would be resilience and efficiency. So resilience is vital for international performances during disruption, but many CEOs they should balance it with efficiency in the stable times. The second one is CEO traits. So besides TIO and other CEO attributes like polychronicity, narcissism, regulatory focus, it can impact organizational resilience and warrant further studies. The next one is network orchestration. So network advantages may be short term, and research should examine the long term effects of TIO on M&E's performances. The next one is team impact. So here is the whole upper echelon team can enhance performance, and future research should explore how TIO influence network orchestration and resilience at team and organization levels. The last one would be funding. So here it is like the study received partial funding from Newcastle University business school research fund. So after this one, I'm gonna hand over the presentations floor to Yash so that he can tell us about the case findings and how they are they how they can fit in the company which we chose, that is Magna International.
Hello, my name is Yashraj Kuhil, and I'll be explaining how exactly the finding of the case study is incorporated in Magna International Incorporation. Firstly, the conclusion drawn from the case study is that the CEOs with a specific orientation known as tertius iungens orientation, TIO in short, coupled with a global mindset can significantly impact the performance and resilience of multinational enterprises, that's MNEs, especially in the face of disruptive challenges. In this case, we are considering a special case of global pandemic of COVID-19, and we will discuss about the challenges faced by the businesses during the COVID pandemic. So CEOs who exhibit a tertius iungens orientation, which involves bringing together diverse interests and promoting network building, play a crucial role in enhancing the resilience of their organizations. This orientations enables them to orchestrate networks effectively, even during the disruptive times. But before moving on to the main aspect, I would like to shed some light on the Magna Corporation. Magna is one of the largest automotive parts manufacturer in the world with a vast global presence. The company operates in over 27 countries and has more than 345 manufacturing facilities worldwide. Its CEO is Sitaram Kotagiri, and before him it was Donald J. Walker during the time of pandemic. Even though that Magna is a very large MNC, we decided to go with Magna. It's because it's very much easier for us to portray all the information because it's readily available on the internet, because we cannot go ahead with doing our own research and getting the data for it. So in this slide we can clearly see in the first chart that how the income statement of the Magna Incorporation was during the time of pandemic, during and after the pandemic. As everyone knows, like the COVID-19 pandemic started in year 2019, during the end of year 2019, and was at its peak in the year 2020. So the company performance can clearly be seen from the first graph, which clearly shows that the year 2020, where overall profit of the company and its operating profit with net income reduced to its lowest. As all the other businesses in this sector, Magna faced a particular supply chain disruption and loss of demand due to pandemic uncertainties. But there is a bounce back in the year 2021. Even though the other companies in this sector suffered losses or less growth in this year, Magna was able to perform not only better to all the other companies, but also able to maintain its high growth with high earnings yield. This was possible due to its high tertius iungens orientation of the CEO. So how exactly was Magna Incorporation able to beat other industries in the market? As you can clearly see in the graph, the company beat the industry by approximately 7%. The answer lies in the statement and strategies followed by the company. The company put a particular amount of stress on OEM relations, that's original equipment manufacturers. Outsourcing strategies as well as the supplier preferences were kept in mind. As discussed in the first slide, that tertius iungens helps to bring together all the customers in the value chain to coordinate. So this helps the organization to bring everyone together and put all the knowledge together so that particular amount of stress can be given on the relationships. Secondly, the relationship between their suppliers and their customers was particularly focused on by the CEO of the organization. And lastly, the cooperation between the subsidiaries and the corporation and sharing of information on niche marketing and changes of customer preferences help the organization to gain helpful insights on changing market dynamics and due to the changing market dynamics due to the COVID pandemic. Even though the research was conducted in United Kingdom and European countries, the CEO's tertius engines orientation and organizational resilience can clearly be seen in Magna Corporation. CEOs who exhibit a tertius engines orientation (TIO) in short, which involves bringing together diverse interests and promoting network building, play a crucial role in enhancing the resilience of the organization. This orientation enables them to orchestrate networks effectively. Even during the disruptive times, in the example of Magna, it was clearly visible that the policies employed brought the networks and brought them together effectively. Organizational resilience is vital for MNEs, particularly during the disruptive events like the COVID-19 pandemic. Resilient organizations are better equipped to withstand shocks, adapt to changing conditions, and maintain in their performance. So that's how the case is relevant to the example of the Magna Corporation. And thank you so much.